Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, you're kind of all scattered out all over the place. If you want to move up towards the front, please do. You'll hear better, you'll see better, and you'll look better on Facebook. Okay, well, if you decide to move, just go ahead anytime. Welcome to a CBC Asks event. My name is Garth Materi. I'm host of Blue Sky and the Afternoon Edition on CBC Radio 1 across Saskatchewan. This is our second CBC Asks event in Saskatoon and on Treaty 6 territory. Now tonight we're talking in part about downtown redevelopment, and we really couldn't be in a better venue for that conversation, could we? This facility is a pretty good example, along with the rest of the South Downtown and River Landing, of how a downtown can be rejuvenated, or in this case, part of a downtown rejuvenated. So would an arena/convention center have a similar effect? Now they say what goes around comes around, and many of you in the crowd probably remember that it was 33 years ago this week, in fact, that people in Saskatoon voted against the idea of a downtown arena to replace the old barn. And a couple decades later, the people of Saskatoon voted no to a downtown casino and event center. However, downtown has changed. Saskatoon and district has grown a lot. Saskatoon, I've always thought, is relatively lucky in that for a city our size, especially in Western Canada, we have a pretty vibrant downtown. But would an arena add to that or create a street-level desert? So that's what we're here to discuss tonight. We'll hear about cities where a new arena downtown has breathed life into that area. We'll probably hear about other cities where it has been an unmitigated disaster. What do you think would happen in Saskatoon? Looking forward to a good discussion tonight, maybe learning a thing or two. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my colleague and your moderator this evening, host of Saskatoon Morning on CBC Radio, Leisha Gravinsky.
Thank you so much, Garth, and welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and welcome to Ramey Modern. It's wonderful to be hosting this event here, and it's great to see so many smiling faces. Thank you for being here. Just a couple of things before we get going tonight. You all should have a program, and you can see there what our plan is for this evening. On the back of the card, there are a few questions that are just a way to help spark the conversation. You can write your thoughts or your questions down if you wish. Now, the goal of the event tonight is to have a conversation. When we open it up to you in the audience, we ask that you try to keep your questions, and I emphasize questions, on the shorter side so we can fit in as many as possible. You'll notice, we also want to get to as many different questions as possible, so try not to repeat anything that's already been asked. You'll notice that we do have CBC cameras here. We're broadcasting this live on our CBC Saskatoon website and on our Facebook page. We're also recording the event, and we will play portions on radio, on television, and online in the coming days. Feel free to tweet throughout the evening with our hashtag CBC Asks. So why did we decide to host a conversation about a downtown arena? We think this is a very important debate about our city, how we grow, and what we want our city to be. As Garth mentioned, we had a similar debate about 30 years ago that we'll show you in a video presentation in just a moment. Some of you may remember that debate about SaskTel Centre before it was built on the north end of the city. It was originally called Saskatchewan Place. It opened in 1988 at a cost of $26 million. And now, 30 years later, it is starting to show its age. 2 years ago, the city hired consultants to look into the costs of renovating the facility or building a new venue. They recommend it be replaced with a new joint-use downtown arena and convention center. The cost? About $330 million to $375 million. The report listed about a dozen potential sites, but did not identify a preference. So the city will have to decide a way forward. And that is what brings us here today as CBC Asks, should Saskatoon build a downtown arena? It's a question that's been asked in this city before. For more than 50 years, it played host to countless rough and rowdy hockey games. And by the time the last puck was passed, Saskatoon's wooden arena, nicknamed the Barn, looked like it was the one that had taken the biggest beating.
Usually I come up into this barn with my overalls on, but I must admit I'm terribly ashamed of this place.
The Saskatoon Arena opened in 1937 on the site where a downtown seniors high-rise sits today. By the 1970s, the arena had outlived its usefulness and had become infamous for its leaky roof and insufficient seating. Yet it wasn't until the early 80s that the effort to replace the building gained steam.
What are the actual functions intended for this facility?
Talk focused on a multi-purpose facility that would hold sports events, trade shows, and concerts.
The City of Saskatoon will determine where it will be, the size it will be, the shape it will be, the height it will be, and the color of the seats.
By 1985, the city and the province found money for a new facility, and the great debate about where to build it ignited. On a piece of land in the North Industrial area or downtown.
If we do not take particular care and actions to maintain the vitality of our urban core, we, as a city, will suffocate and degenerate to a meaningless mass of suburbia.
We must also remember that the NHL is still a possibility for our city. But if we do not choose the proper location so we can build the proper building, we can have no hope.
The city had considered building the arena on the city yards, but decided it would cost too much to move the yards and delay the arena's construction.
It's worked out very, very well.
The group that wanted the arena built downtown brought in an American proponent of downtown sports venues. Thomas Duffy worked for the Downtown Council of Minneapolis. After a 2-year debate, that city built its Metrodome downtown.
In downtown is the strength, usually your largest tax base, your largest employment center. Therefore, you should have the facilities downtown that can benefit the whole area.
I have to say that I favor the north site, and I will be supporting the motion tonight.
In a 6-5 decision, Saskatoon City Council voted in favor of building the arena on the north end of the city, but the public remained divided.
How anybody can vote on a piece of land where nobody knows for sure it's just up north somewhere. Are we buying a pig in a poke for $57.7 thousand an acre? Who knows where it is?
It'd be nice to have it downtown, but if you ever went to anything with a big crowd, you'd never get out of the city for hours.
Well, I think it should have been downtown. It just is a better place for it.
What the hell good is it way out there?
No, I think it's better than being right downtown. I think that's a crazy idea.
What?
I just don't think it will bring business like they think it will.
That division led to 2 public votes. The first one asked whether the city should build a new arena downtown where a decommissioned power plant was located, just south of where the farmers market is today. It was soundly rejected.
Madam Chairman, I just had one comment, is that the people did vote on the location. And I'll leave it at that.
But the debate didn't end there. 6 months later, voters were faced with the choice of a new arena on the north end that came with $14 million in funding from the province, or no arena at all. 70% voted in favor of building at the northern location.
Saskatchewan Place will be the home.
2 years later, on February 9th, 1988, Saskatchewan Place opened with a Western Hockey League game. The home team, Saskatoon Blades, beat the visiting Brandon Wheat Kings 4-3.
I'm going to enjoy myself here. I'm going to come here every night. Well, every game anyways.
The beer is really good.
And it's John Carlson, who plays for the Washington Towers in our fan team in Washington.
Saskatchewan Place would go on to host many more sports and entertainment events, as well as undergo an expansion and a couple of name changes. But the dream of vibrant development of bars and restaurants around the arena never materialized, and an NHL team never relocated to the city. Now, 30 years later, SaskTel Centre is starting to show its age. A study done for the city touts the economic benefits of building a new arena and convention center downtown, instead of renovating the old building on the North End site. So once again, people are being asked, should Saskatoon build a downtown arena? So that is the question we are asking tonight. Should Saskatoon build a downtown arena? Before we get to that question, though, let's find out a little bit more about the current state of SaskTel Centre and that market analysis we've been hearing a bit about. I'm joined now by Will Lofdahl. He is the CEO of SaskTel Centre.
Hello, Alicia. Thanks
for
having me.
Hello, Will. Thank you so much for being here. What do you see at events that tells you that this conversation is really important for the city to be having?
If we get more than 8,000 people in the venue, we just can't service them. The concourses are way too congested. We don't have enough concessions lines to accommodate people. The restroom lines are very long. It's just not a comfortable environment for people, and ticket prices are going up for events, so people want to come out and enjoy themselves at events. That's from the fan side of things. From the production side of things, our rigging steel is too low. Our dressing rooms are inadequate. There are homes in this town that have larger kitchens than what we have. That's true. I'm not just making that up. And yet we're trying to service upwards of 15,000 people. So we compete in an environment where other communities are building new facilities. And we, as I said to City Council 2 years ago when we began the process of looking at this, we are oftentimes the smallest market that major concerts play. And we are, if not the oldest, one of the very oldest stops on a tour, which only tells me that in time we will be knocked off that list and we will no longer enjoy the amount of programming that we've had.
Was there a particular moment, though? Is there a moment you can share with us where you thought, okay, this moment signifies to me that we need to talk about this place?
Well, unlike a milk carton, there's not an expiration date on the side of Saskatoon Center. But in 2008, we were ranked number 68 concert attendance-wise in the world for arenas. And in 2017, we're 140. So that tells me that we're not heading in the right direction.
What about the state of the building? Just the roof, that sort of thing. What's the state of the building?
Well, it's made to last. It's sturdy. The roof is 30 years old, so, and the electrical system's 30 years old, and the plumbing system's 30 years old. The HVAC system's 30 years old, and it was made for a capacity of 8,000 people, and oftentimes we'll put 15,000 people in there. So if you come to a concert in July, I dress for a warm evening.
You put 16,000 in there for Metallica, didn't you?
16.7, and we're proud of that. The one thing to note is that major concert tours are doing 30, 35, 40 stops in North America, and we want to stay on that list. We want to be considered, and we need to have a building that competes.
Why would the building matter to performers? Is it not more the size of the city, the number of tickets they can sell? Why does the building matter?
If we're operating in an environment where everything is getting bigger, production's getting bigger, so they want bigger, they want more pow, or whatever you want to call it, which means they have to hang it higher and more of it. The Metallica concert, which we just had, we were pretty close to the limit of what we could actually hang from our beams. So we're finding that if it's easier to play at another building, more convenient, it's less expensive to move in and move out, when their rigging is more convenient and more structured, the dressing rooms are better, then there's less likelihood that they'll select us.
Is it inconvenient right now to perform at Saskatoon Center?
Yes.
Why?
Because other buildings, it's more convenient, and it's relativity.
Has anybody passed us up so far?
We don't always know who will pass us up. We almost lost Garth Brooks because our rigging steel was too small. They actually told us that they weren't coming, but then they were able to figure out a way to make it work. Roger Waters passed us up a little while ago. I believe that Paul McCartney's not playing us because our rigging steel's too low. So, yeah, we will see in the not too distant future that we're not as desirable as we once were.
How many events does Saskatoon Center attract in a year?
Around 100.
And what numbers of people would you see at those events? All 100 would not be 15,000 people, obviously.
No. They'd range from a couple thousand up to capacity. It depends upon the event.
So how many sold out shows would Saskatoon Center have in a year, potentially?
20.
What kind of revenue does that bring the city?
The Saskatoon Center We'll make about $2 million this year.
And do you know what the trickle effect is?
Define trickle effect.
I guess for the rest of the city, if you're able to sell out 20 events a year, how does the city of Saskatoon benefit from such events?
Well, when Garth Brooks was here, there was a $10 million economic impact for the community. When the Memorial Cup was here, it was $25 million, and when the World Juniors was here, it was north of $70 million for a facility that cost $26 million to build in the first place. So I would say that there's a pretty good return.
So what did the consultants say about renovating the facility?
It's an option. But if you're going to spend $110 million to renovate a facility, and you're not going to bring that up to the level of a new facility, and that $110 million gets you another 8 to 10 years, it's not likely worth it.
Is that all that we would get out of $110 million is about 8 to 10
If
years?
you had a 1988 Chevrolet Monte Carlo, and you put in a new engine, and you put new tires on it, and a new steering wheel, what have you got?
So what do you see as the most practical option then? I'm assuming you're going to say building a new arena.
Sure. When we are one of the oldest arenas on major concert tours, what does that tell you?
How important is location?
I think it's pretty important. The Romans built their Colosseum downtown.
Has there been a downside to having SaskTel Centre located on the north end of the city?
I think the fact that it was built in the first place has really provided an enhanced lifestyle for the people of the city of Saskatoon for the last 30 years. So it's a good thing that it was built. Would it have been more successful if it was located downtown? Probably.
Why? Why do you think probably?
Because it allows you to energize a downtown, bring synergies into downtown. People can go downtown, have dinner, go over to the arena, see an event, go out to the bars afterwards. It allows for more options for people for enjoying events, and which is why communities have been locating their arenas downtown for the last 2 decades, and doing so in most cases successfully. Now there's some instances where they haven't been successful, but the vast majority of arenas in the last 20 years, at least in major markets, have been located downtown. There's only 3 major markets in the last 20 years that have located their arena outside of downtown. They are Phoenix, where the Coyotes moved, and they're not happy with their situation. The Ottawa Senators, who want to move downtown, and San Antonio Spurs.
Do you sell more tickets if the location is right? Do you think people factor that in when they're buying tickets for Garth Brooks?
Well, it's a difficult question to ask, because you would have to try one versus another and find out whether one does better than the other. There's a reason why communities are locating their arenas downtown, is because it creates a lot of synergy, and it helps the downtown to be more successful, helps the arena to be more successful.
Is there any downside in your mind to having an arena downtown, to building a new arena downtown?
There's challenges, there's congestion, there's a number of things that one needs to address, and one needs to plan, which is why we're going out and looking at what other communities are doing, asking what challenges they had. Certainly getting people in and out of downtown in a manner that's efficient and effective is a hurdle that would need to be solved, but other cities have had the same dilemma and the same challenge, and have been able to do so, and do so successfully.
What size of facility are we talking about? Would it be the same size as SaskTel Centre, about a 15,000?
Yeah, about a 15,000 seat facility.
And is that still what we need in Saskatoon? Do we need bigger?
Yes.
Do you think
No.
that's? And why do you think that's still the right size?
Madison Square Garden is located in a metropolitan size of 29 million people. Their capacity is 20,000.
How would we pay for something like this?
Well, there's a number of ways to go about doing so. Right now, the city's looking into that. Other communities have gone at it a number of different ways. So we're looking at the options to see what might work best for the city of Saskatoon.
What would happen to SaskTel Centre if an arena were to be built downtown?
Well, you could tear it down. You could repurpose it. There's a number of different options. In Toronto, when the Maple Leaf Gardens was no longer the home of the Toronto Maple Leafs, they repurposed that to a recreation center. In Houston, when the Houston Rockets left the Summit, an evangelist bought the facility and has church service there on Sunday. So there are a number of there are things that one can do with an old arena, and one of which is tear it down, because the land out there is quite valuable, so that could be sold. So there are positive uses that one could have with it.
And if downtown, where downtown?
Still to be determined.
The consultants named some spots, right? Even though they weren't made public. Do you have you considered that? When you look at our downtown here, where would be a good spot for it?
There's a number of potential locations. That has not been looked at yet.
Is there anything that you would want to be part of that conversation? Does it need to be next to a parking lot? Does it need to be connected to public transportation? What should be considered when selecting the site?
Ease in and out, that's one. Access to the BRT, which is being looked at now. Proximity to restaurants and other options for people to go before and after the event.
Does it help?
Cost.
Does it help if more people live downtown? That's something we've talked a lot about in this city. How do we get more people to live downtown? Is that part of the puzzle?
You find that when you have a vibrant downtown, that attracts people to move downtown. So that would be part of the hopefully the positive benefits that come as a result.
What's the next step in this process?
Currently, the city is taking a look at financing options and how that would fit into their long-term plans. And it's my understanding that city administration will be bringing a report forward in the next couple months with their thoughts.
Okay. Will, thank you for your time tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Will Lofdahl, CEO of SaskTel Centre. Well, thank you so much for your time tonight. We really appreciate that. Now, we do have a panel of people we would like to invite to the stage now. They're going to get settled in their seats here. We'll have microphones set up, and so we are asking audience members for you to ask some questions of our panelists. So those two microphones are set up. Well, there's one definitely there, and I think there's just this one right here. So that's the microphone there that you're welcome to get up at any point to pose your questions to our panelists. I do have a couple trivia questions, though, while they're getting settled and we get their microphones all set up. So if you were paying close attention to the video, you might know the answer to some of these. But if you know the answers, just feel free to shout them out. So what were the two previous names of SaskTel Centre? Saskatchewan Place and Credit Union Centre. So Saskatchewan Place from 1998 till 2004, Credit Union Centre from 2004 to 2014. When did SaskTel Centre open? 1988. But did somebody say the exact day? February 9th. You were paying attention. The original seating capacity of SaskTel Centre. 7,800. It was then expanded to 11,330 seats for the World Junior Hockey Championships in 1990. Additional seating was added in 2008 and 2009, and the current capacity, unless it's for Metallica, 15,190. What else can I tell you? Largest crowd for a Saskatoon Blades game. 12,588, set on February 9th, 2003, in a game against the Lethbridge Hurricanes. Who knew? And what about the largest crowd for a Saskatchewan Rush game? Yeah, 15,192, set on May 21st, 2016, in a game against the Calgary Roughnecks. And then the attendance record, we've talked about this already, Metallica won the attendance record with 16,874. That was just on September 15th, 2018. So there you go, some fun trivia. So our panel, I would like to introduce some wonderful people to you. We're going to find out from each of them where they stand on these issues, and then we'll expand and have audience members come up and ask some questions. So I'm going to start with the person directly to my left here. This is Alan Wallace. He is a planning consultant for V3 Companies of Canada Limited and a former director of planning and development for the city of Saskatoon. Alan, welcome. So briefly, in just less than a minute, tell us what's your position on a downtown arena should we build one?
Right. Thanks, Leisha, and thanks for hosting this. It's a marvelous venue and a great topic. It would come as a complete shock for anyone to hear a city planner say they think an arena should be out on the outskirts of town in an industrial area. So I'm going to play the party line here, and I think it should be downtown. I'm a big supporter of the city center. We're faced with two choices. There's a choice to spend $100 million and then renovate a building which is old and in the wrong location and has had, we know for a fact, 0 spin-off effects. We know that already. We've had 30 years of experience. We know it hasn't spun off anything. All the existing uses around SaskTel Centre would have been built had there been an arena there or not. The second choice we have is to spend more money and build a combined convention center arena in the downtown. And the reason I'm supportive of that is we have a very strong downtown, and there's examples across Canada where arenas have not spun off as much as people had thought, so they're a little disappointed. This downtown is different. This downtown is fairly strong. It's hard to find parking at 7 at night. We have great retail. We have great restaurants. We're going to be putting things in the downtown to help people get to an arena, like a BRT, bike lanes. You could walk to it. You can drive to it. Who here has biked to SaskTel Centre? Nobody has biked to SaskTel Centre or walked. You have to drive. And one of the things about putting it out there, and people should realize that, and you do realize, that highways are limited access, high-speed roadways. Limited access. So that's why we have only 2 ways in and out of SaskTel Centre. So the choices are there. You spend a bit more money, but you at least open the opportunity or the chance for some spin-off benefit downtown. And I think there's a couple of great locations, and it's no surprise to me why the referendum ended up the way it did in 1985. If you can, you look at that, and it brings back some memories. But we had no viable location downtown. And we were a bit impatient. It's amazing to see that in 85 we had a referendum and the doors opened in 1988. And the difference this time is we have the luxury of time, and the luxury of time to really consider, because it's going to be another 7 years before, we see an arena downtown or somewhere else.